Hi there, welcome. I'm Bob Thompson, and I'd like to welcome you to the Philanthropic Planner Program. We've been doing this for a crazy number of almost 11 years, and people ask me, why do you do this? It's a boring subject, philanthropy in general, and I'm a little crazy. And the purpose is to share with you that you don't have to be a multi-millionaire to be a philanthropist. You can be a volunteer. You can do a lot of things for your community, but the reaction that I get is, Bob, I would like to do more if I could. I would like to do more if I knew how. The I could part of it is, do I have the capacity? Can I give money? Can I do good in the community? I really would like to, but do I have the capacity to give money? And I'm concerned about long-term care. I'm concerned about this. I'm concerned about that. So capacity is an important thing as we look at philanthropy in general. I would like to do more if I knew how. That's one of sharing neighbors with neighbors, colleagues at work, people across the country. What are they doing that I could do? Okay. I was going to refer to letters. We have a guest, so I got to cut this first 3 minutes short. But I received a letter after our last program from Mary, and Mary must be a regular viewer. She sent me a little note and thanked me because she received her first check from a charitable gift annuity and a concept that we started last fall in laddering charitable gift annuities. She got her first check. She sends a note. Thank you for all you do. So that was kind of fun to hear that. The background of that is she is intending to gift in a charitable gift annuity $50,000 a year for 10 years. That's 10 charities out there that will receive the remainder interest in that charitable gift annuity. We have a guest today, and I'm pretty excited about this, and I have to confess early that I stalked this gentleman. When I heard that he was coming to Hartford, I got so damn excited, when I heard that this guy was coming to Hartford. And I'll give you a quick background. We did some major gift planning for George Mason University down in the DC, Virginia area. And a sub-cabinet post member of President Obama's administration, when he found out that I was from Ohio, and he graduated from Ohio State undergrad and law school. And he said, where are you from in Ohio? I said, up in the northeast corner of Warren. He said, oh, Warren, Youngstown area? And that's where I first heard the name Jay Williams. And I'd like to welcome Jay Williams to the Philanthropic Planner.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thrilled to be here.
I really mean that.
Thank you.
Part of the reason, and let me jump into this because I'll forget about it. But last program we talked about meaningful dialogue, and I had the opportunity of visiting a Greater Together listening tour that Jay Williams has been about, and I thought this is good for the Greater Hartford, for Connecticut, but the Greater Hartford region. And I pulled out, Jay, an old American Benefactor magazine, and we had an ad in American Benefactor for several years. And I've shown the audience before on this, Jay, that this is a New England town. Okay. My wife did the graphics here. Charity begins at home. Home is where the heart is. Heart is the community. And when we think in that context, and this is a roundabout way to get over Jay, Jay brings with him experience and a skill set that's very unique in the philanthropic arena. Economic development is a part of it, and he has been at the other leg of the stool on the public side. And when we think about Alexa de Tocqueville talking about public, private, and charitable philanthropic, okay? Here's a gentleman that comes, and that's why I was impressed with Greater Together. And you know, and forgive me, a lot of your colleagues in the area of nonprofit do not understand the bigger picture, if you will, and I apologize, of the importance of economic development, jobs in the community,
Right.
urban revitalization,
Right.
all of these things that you had the experience before you went with President Obama. And that's part of what made me excited. So I really appreciate you being here.
Well, thank you again.
And I'd like to share with our audience that, well, we talk about Mahoning and Trumbull County. We can't say a lot of that on the air, but Jay was Assistant Secretary of Commerce in the Economic Development and worked directly with the president on working with municipalities, with other governments, and so on. So that's exciting. Let me ask you, is something like opportunity zones, what I'd like to see more of, this is where you can really be a leader all over the place, is collaborating on that public, private, and philanthropic area to bring and put vigor in the local community, and we lack that.
Well, again, thank you for the opportunity to join you, and I couldn't agree with you more. And I can tell you from my experience, when it comes to communities like the greater Hartford region, which is similar to the Mahoning Valley and so many other places across the country, that the most achievable results and sustainable results will come through the public-private partnerships that you've described. There is absolutely a role that the public sector plays, whether it's at the state, federal, or local level, particularly at the local level. Invariably, there has to be an opportunity for the private sector investment, but that's where philanthropy can come in and serve as a convener or an entity that would help to attract and bring together those partnerships in unique and innovative ways. And that's also what excites me about being here in this region at this time, from having seen a lot of other places across the country that don't have necessarily the assets or the potential that exist here in this community, acknowledging that there are significant challenges, and those challenges continue to grow. But through the public-private partnerships, you mentioned opportunity zones and so many other things, to be a part of a philanthropic organization that is embracing community and economic development alongside the traditional philanthropic activities that we're engaged in is exciting. There's lots of work to be done, but I think that it holds great potential for the impact that we can collectively have here.
There's an incredible amount of wealth out there, and yesterday I mentioned this all-day conference with financial planners that we talk about wealth, we talk about intergenerational transfer of that wealth, and I was invited to a private focus group thing last night, Jay, where the gentleman is developing a project to bring public in September, October, talking about the creation of wealth and wealth destroyed, and we need people to put their arms around how to do better with this wealth,
right?
Both when they're alive and when they die. I mean, we have all these charitable tools, and that's part of the reason for this program, is to share, charitable remainder trusts and charitable gift annuities and donor advised funds, and how to use this gem of the Hartford Foundation of Public Giving. And I have the heart of community philanthropy, and we want to be philanthropists using the tool of Public Giving Hartford Foundation and private money, from this wealth, rather than depending on governmental grants totally.
Right.
We need the combination of all of those,
You're absolutely right.
And that's exciting. This gentleman, in a short period of time, a year and a half, almost 2 years now, has done some wonderful things, and I can't give you all the credit. You have to have a good board. You have
Absolutely.
to have a great staff, and
Correct.
I've met some of them, and they are super.
They are phenomenal.
So tell me a little bit about where your head is,
Sure.
where you're going, where these things are going to be in another 2 or 3 years.
Well, thank you. You're absolutely right. A board that is very forward-thinking and empowers and equips us as an organization that we could not be successful with. And as you pointed out, a staff that is brighter and more talented than I am. That is one of the secrets of leadership that I've learned is when you lead an organization, I tell my staff, if I'm the smartest person at the table, there's something wrong. The staff is passionate and talented. My job is to empower and bring the best out of them. So very, very much deserve the credit. I'll start with something that you said in the introduction is that I agree with, that philanthropy, we want to make philanthropy accessible. We want to make philanthropy inspiring, whether you have millions and millions of dollars or whether you're just starting out in your career or you find yourself anywhere in between. Philanthropy is about giving of one's talent, of one's treasure, and of one's time. So at the Hartford Foundation, we've been around, we're in our 94th year now, and have continued to serve 29 communities in Greater Hartford region, but we're an evolving organization. And you alluded to the 29-town listening tour that we just completed. So early on in my tenure, we made a commitment that we were going to reintroduce and engage every one of the 29 towns that we serve. Not taking for granted that we've been around and that we know it all. We've learned a lot. But it was really a conversation and an opportunity to ask a few simple questions about how we can be more impactful, how we can be a more valuable partner and an asset, to inquire of people what they loved about their communities and what were their concerns or frustrations.
And listen.
And to listen.
Yes,
and
sir.
to listen,
Yes, sir.
listen. And not then say, okay, we've checked that box, we can move on, but to take what we heard and to incorporate that into our work going forward. And that's exactly what we're doing as we're rolling out our new strategic plan that is really building on the work that we've done in the past. And you talked about where we're going over the next number of years. It is going to be really seeking to focus on the opportunities and the inequities and some of the disparities that continue to persist in this community that are disproportionately and adversely affecting segments of our community. Individuals whose trajectory in life is defined by their zip code. We find that that is unacceptable, that the data that is telling us that we cannot be a vibrant community if we continue to allow that.
That's the challenge.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Individuals who the race or ethnicity has a disproportionate and adverse effect, or individuals who, based on their geographic location. You talked about the wealth that is here in this community and the generosity that is also here in this community. And what we're hearing from our donors, what we're interpreting from the data is that we, through our partnerships, not alone as a foundation, but through the partnerships with a number of stakeholders, can really begin to identify areas where we can perhaps be more impactful, help to facilitate greater opportunities. And in doing that, ultimately, we will find ourselves as a community with a more sustainable trajectory, with a greater quality of life. And, there's a lot of work between here and that aspirational goal, but through the partnerships and what we've been hearing and seeing and doing over the past couple of years, and particularly what we're going to be doing over the next few years, I think we can get there.
I don't know how I got the invitation. Maybe they took picture off the post office, or maybe they went back to Warren and find out. But I was excited to attend this Catalyst meeting, and didn't get an opportunity to visit with you. But and I found that, wow, I know 6, 8, 10 of these attorneys, and I'm expecting a different audience attending this. And I started to talk to some of them, and we've worked with some of them with wills, trusts, and estates and that kind of thing. And the support or membership or subscription or however they're tied in with the Catalyst program. And I'm thinking, we don't know about this kind of thing. And that happened to be justice, reforming justice, and one of the challenges that you allude to. But if we don't have this meaningful dialogue of, here we are, this is what our community is, here's what we think are our challenges, and this is how we think we can, improve it, okay? That's meaningful dialogue.
Without question.
That is one that, let me share quickly with you. these are called, you're more than familiar with some of this. I have past programs that if I need a filler, I don't need it with you, but and I don't see the piece of paper, darn it, where healing meals, and they delivered meals to 19 towns in the greater Hartford area. And I'm thinking, that is an entrepreneurial, philanthropic, do-good, and involving children, students,
Right.
as a part of their giving, and all of these towns. How do people know about that kind of thing? Open Hearth, Wood Yard, Open Hearth. We've had guests on the program, Favor, Charities of Hope, and all of these things. And I got a note where a lady here about 4 years ago wanted to set up a program of $5,000 a year to give two $2,500 scholarships to inner city children, so that they had the opportunity to go to college. And I'm thinking, here's a widow, and she and her husband accumulated some wealth. But going back to, I would do more if I knew how, I had the capacity, if I so on and so on. I've got some people that say, I would like to give, I don't know who to give to. And I'm, what? Let's look at some of the things that are going around. ABC House here, we've got kids that are get a good education and they go to college, but they are a small segment of talented in a skill set and so on. Where, forgive me now, and you relate to this. There were two ways to get out of the Rust Belt steel and get out of where you and I came from. That was football and boxing.
You got it. You got it.
Right?
You got it.
And we had 7 on our team play pro ball. And getting out, and I say this only because I'm going back to my 85th or 90th reunion or so, whatever that is, okay? But seriously, we have children that should be going to college, but their family doesn't have the money. And then, I told you about my next program is college cost. We need, that's a big challenge, okay? We got talented children going through the school system that don't have a chance.
And how we connect them with those opportunities. Because the reality is only a tiny, tiny fraction of those kids are going to make it to the level where they can make a living at that. And even when they do make it to that level, the ability to sustain that career, the average career in the NFL is between 3 and 5 years. People don't, they see the people who've been around for a decade. Those are anomalies. And even shorter in boxing, and the toll that takes. So to your point, how we connect the rest of those students, the 98 to 99% of the other students who through education, whether it's a 4-year or 2-year education at college, whether it's through vocational training, that may not ultimately be a path to college, but is a path to a career. How we ensure that the opportunity is spread. And one of the things that I often quote is President Obama was fond of saying that talent exists in every zip code across this country, across the inner city, across the rural areas. But the opportunity to develop that talent and to formulate that talent does not equally exist. And that's where we find ourselves at a crossroads of working with so many of the nonprofits that you talked about, Favor, you talked about Open Hearth, you talked about Healing Meals, that we are familiar with or have partnered with. How do we facilitate those organizations doing what they do at scale, addressing the basic human needs that ultimately then allow us to connect opportunities to those families, to those students that you talked about? Because as a society, as a community, we can't fully be vibrant if we're leaving behind significant segments, whether they're young people who need and deserve an opportunity to grow and to contribute to their society, whether it's some of our families who are struggling with some of the things that maybe that we often take for granted. So, that's to me where we are pressing forward in a way that is, in ways that are innovative and new, really understanding that those are areas that our donors and people who want to be philanthropic can do it at any level. And,
Right.
and I just love
Right.
the fact that we talked about that philanthropy isn't dictated by your net worth or your income tax returns or your bank accounts or your investment accounts. Philanthropy really starts with a desire, the root word of phileo, meaning love, and anthropology, mankind, the love
Right.
of mankind.
Right.
That's where philanthropy starts.
Right. Mary, that I talked about in her letter,
Uh-huh.
retired teacher, Bloomfield, African American.
Right.
She wants to have scholarships for these children. And I'm saying, how great is that she's able to do that? But we need to share with other people what
Absolutely.
Mary is doing.
Right.
Okay, and that's the exciting thing.
These aren't good secrets to keep. We want people to know that there are opportunities and
But it's
people like Mary.
crazy.
All right.
I mean, when we look at the challenges and we say, hey, the enemy is us.
Right.
And that's why when I heard you were coming here, I thought, economic development, he knows and understands the needs and the challenges of the community. And I go back to my stupid little American benefactor book and say, the heart is in the community.
It's true.
And I don't have to be a millionaire.
Absolutely
and
not.
the greatest thing with some of these entrepreneurial startups, I'll call them,
Right.
are volunteers.
Absolutely.
And the time and the effort that they put into it. And then I didn't say this, I forgot, duh. And I'm critical of the Chronicle every once in a while. Here 3 or 4 issues ago, it was big cities.
Okay.
And I'm thinking, how about small towns?
Yep.
How about small towns?
Yep.
Now, this particular issue is bigger, better, and bolder. They're talking about campaigns right now of education, college, and universities, and so on and so on. Well, now Princeton needs another $3.5 billion, and we got all of this. And I'm saying, wait a minute. Let's come to the community and say, we need to come up to snuff here.
We do. You also alluded to the fact when you talked about connecting young people. My wife and I have an 8-year-old son and want him to begin to understand philanthropy, even at 8 years old. That we're blessed and we're fortunate to be able to provide for him, but at the same time want him to realize that and not take that for granted and know that he has peers, young boys and girls who
Yep.
Are perhaps his classmates near and across the country and beyond,
Yep.
to instill in him a philanthropic mindset, to give, not with the expectation you're going to get something back in a material sense,
Correct.
but the joy that comes with giving for the sake of giving, for the sake
Reward.
and the love
Yep.
of your peers. So even at a young age, he clearly, whatever little allowance or money he happens to earn, we also want him to understand it's not just about material consumption
Take
and
a part of
buying.
it.
That
Yeah.
take a part of that,
Yeah.
take a part of what we have and be able to give to others.
Can I take the risk and and I'm saying the risk here, there's some Midwest value there. And I was brought up not from a wealthy family, first in my family to go to college, let alone law school. God, country, community, family, self.
Yeah.
Today we got it upside down. Self. We don't even get up to the family and the community,
Right.
okay?
Right.
Let alone country and God. And I think one of the answers and a big challenge that we have, macro basis, is philanthropy. And we've gotten away from it. We think that the government's going to solve everything, and it can't. It's not efficient enough to where if I give $10,000 to the Hartford Foundation
Right.
Public Giving and we do good in the community, it's more efficient to do that than have a tax dollar
Without
that's
question.
that's $1.98 to deliver 90 cents.
Without question. And having worked at multiple levels of government, at the federal level, at the local level, there is a role and a place for government, without question. I say that unapologetically. However, I can also say that when you talk about the impact and the efficiency of individuals who want to give and want to see that immediate impact in their communities, that is where community foundations really shine.
Yes.
Clearly, I'm biased toward the abilities and the history and the work of the Hartford Foundation, but we can talk about community foundations broadly. But here in the greater Hartford area, we have the ability to connect our donors or prospective donors with opportunities in the community, whatever their interests might be, whatever their philanthropic inclinations or passions are. Our ability to understand, to embrace, to research, to demonstrate how a donor can be effective in multiple ways. Again, through their financial resources, through the research and evaluation, through the ability to convene stakeholders around a particular issue, through our public policy, through our capacity building to help small fledgling nonprofits really be more efficient and be more impactful. And that's also what differentiates us from some of the commercial funds, you know, you know, no disparagement to those who do their philanthropy through some of the commercial gift funds. They serve a purpose, but they are largely transactional.
Correct.
We can be efficient if someone says, I don't need all the donor advice and I just want to be able to use my smartphone to make a contribution somewhere in the greater Hartford region, across the country or across the globe. We can do that. But at the same time, if someone says, hey, I really have a concern or interest about this segment and where might this be beneficial to the community, we can sit down and have a conversation and bring research and convene a discussion around that. You will never
and share
get that
what others are doing with the same interest.
Absolutely. You'll never get that from one of the commercial gift funds. So again, we want people to have choices, but to know that we can do philanthropy, if they're inspired to do philanthropy here in a greater Hartford region or somewhere else on the globe, we can do that. But the depth and the breadth of the experience and the expertise that we bring is unparalleled and unmatched. And I think that's what we're most proud of.
And the financial planner is going to show through here when I talk about ROI, the return on investment of philanthropic dollars, monitoring what they're doing and the impact. And people are interested in impact.
Absolutely. And both short-term and long-term impact, both of which, you know, we can fully embrace.
I'm going to run out of time here. And I could spend another 2 or 3 hours with you. You're together, greater together, and you're listening to her. You said something about $100,000.
Yes.
Let me ask you, forgive me if this is a bad time. Will this continue, or I'll give you my wish list?
Sure.
Okay?
Okay.
Like Lilly, like Kellogg in Indiana and Michigan. Year 2, 3, 4, can we look at maybe a matching that Hartford Foundation will match what you local community will deliver? That's my wish list.
I think that's a very reasonable proposition. And I can tell you that when we establish the community funds in each one of the 29 communities with an initial investment of $100,000, I'll give you a little bit of insight. The board wanted me to ensure that I emphasize that this was an initial investment.
Okay. We're running out of time, my man.
It has been wonderful.
Enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it.
Thanks, Bob.
Thanks for taking the time.
Clearly. Thank you.
See you next time. Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.